Hi and welcome to this demonstration of the Tandberg Model 6 reel-to-reel tape recorder. There are a couple of videos of the Model 6 here on YouTube, but not many of them actually demonstrate the machine. They're mostly just videos of showing the machine playing back a tape. So in this video I'll attempt to go a bit further than that. First, a general introduction. The Model 6 was Tandberg's flagship model, which was announced in the early 1960s, and as such it was really quite a breakthrough because it was, for the first time, it was a deck. It doesn't have any built-in loudspeakers, which was unusual for a consumer machine in those days. It was stereo. It had 4 tracks. 4-track had already been announced, but stereo was very unusual. And for Tandberg, it was a completely new color scheme with this now classic gray metal anthracite color, compared to the earlier machines, which had been finished in hammerite, yellow hammerite with yellow plastic details. Here, all the knobs are made in chromed metal, giving it a very durable and stylish appearance. This is, as I mentioned, a deck, which means there's no built-in loudspeakers. It doesn't even have a power amplifier, which is why I've got this cord here, which connects to an external amplifier on the left-hand channel, so we can actually listen to something. Also a first for a consumer, maybe not a first, but unusual for a consumer machine, it has 3 heads. It has a erase head, recording head, and a playback head, which means that you can actually record and play back at the same time, make a recording and listen to it just a fraction of a second later, which means that you can actually listen to what you're recording off the tape and make sure that your recording is actually being made on the tape and not just listening to the recording amplifier. This, of course, was a feature that was available in professional decks, but for a home machine this was rather unusual. And indeed, this machine was geared at the upper end of the home market, but was also used semi-professionally by radio stations, etc. The machine is completely tube-based, and it has, if I remember correctly, about, let's see, 8 tubes in the amplifier, plus 1 oscillator, plus 2 indicators here for the recording level, so that's 11 tubes in it. Most of them are triodes, double triodes, and then there are the indicator tubes. The motor is also slightly unusually for a Tandberg. It's a synchronous motor in order to keep the speed more consistent than with a traditional asynchronous motor. But let's get to it. I won't go through the controls one by one here. I'll start playing a tape and we'll take it as we go along. First of all, the classic Tandberg function control. Free position, fast wind, back and forth, and a playback position, play and record position. On Tandbergs, the reels turn opposite each other unless you put the function control in the free position, and that's intended for loading. In the Model 6, additionally, there's actually a brake in the normal position, which actually stops the tape faster than on classic Tandberg units, where the reels are just turning opposite each other. As you noticed, the tape doesn't move. The reels don't spin when I put it in the fast-forward position, and that's not due to anything being wrong. The tape recorder is actually switched on, but it's due to a mechanical end-stop sensor here at the right-hand guide pin. So if I put a tape in the free position, then I can wind the tape forwards, backwards, whatever you like. Here is an array of 5 buttons, which where the middle one is a pause control, which controls a solenoid which stops and starts the tape. When this button is up, the tape is stopped. Pressing it down will cause the tape to play. As you can see, there's a slight amount of tension on the left-hand reel to keep it tight so you don't get a loop forming when you pause it. The other 2 buttons here are record left, record right, playback left, playback right. The recording buttons don't latch unless you put the function control in the play position. The playback buttons do latch, depending on which channel you want to listen to. So if we, again, put the tape in play position and start it, we can listen to one channel or the other channel. This particular tape happens to be recorded in 4-track mono. So there are actually 2 recordings, one in each track. Ordinary wind, forwards and backwards. And the end stop sensor means that when the tape is wound out, it will automatically shut off the motor and stop, and the machine will eventually stop. If we want to make a recording, we'll take another tape, which I use for test recordings. Since I have a recording I want to keep on the first side of the tape, I'm going to load the second side up and wind it back a bit. There are basically 2 volume controls. There's a recording level control, with the left channel being on top, the right channel being underneath, or in Tandberg parlance, channels 1 and 2. On this machine they're not designated left and right. And there's a playback level, 2 playback level controls here for the left and right channels. And finally there is also a switch here where you can set the machine to various modes. The normal mode means that you can listen to a recording, but you cannot monitor what is coming through the recording amplifier. In the A/B tests position, you can actually switch, using the playback buttons, you can switch between listening to what's coming through the recording amplifier and what's being played back, so you can compare your recording with what's actually being put on tape. Now if I want to make a recording on the left-hand channel, I press the recording button and pull the function lever forward, which sets the machine in forward run mode. Now I haven't depressed the middle button, so it's actually still stopped. I'm going to plug a microphone. This is a Tandberg Model TM3 microphone, which was not included with this recorder, but it was the type that Tandberg sold to consumers who wanted to make their own recordings. Now if I start talking a bit closer to the microphone, you'll see the recording level indicator here, indicating that there is a signal going in, and if I actually start the tape, it will be recorded on tape. If I press the playback button here, you'll hear an echo. That's because the sound is being recorded on the tape and then played back a fraction of a second later. If I switch tape speeds to a lower speed, you'll notice that the echo will be longer. At the slowest tape speed, it's actually quite long. And the sound from the loudspeaker gets fed back into the microphone, which means I get more than one echo. I get a continuous stream of echoes, especially if I move the microphone closer to the loudspeaker. And that way you can make trick effects. The best sound quality, of course, is achieved on the highest speed. Now, of course, I can wind the tape back and listen to this recording. Now I'm listening to the wrong. This is much higher than the recorded tape speed, which is why it sounds like Mickey Mouse. Is achieved on the highest speed. If I wanted to make a recording on the right-hand channel, I'd depress the right-hand button, and playing back on the right-hand channel, you can hear the echo from the recording. If I just leave the button up, the amplifier is actually playing. The sound coming through the amplifier is the sound coming into the tape recorder, but as there's no delay there, it doesn't make any special sound. I wind the tape back. Coming into the tape recorder, but as there's no delay there, it doesn't make I can listen to that recording. If I want to make a stereo recording, I'd press both buttons down. As you can see, the microphone is connected to the left-hand channel input, which means that I can only the recording would only end up on the left-hand channel. Similarly for the right-hand channel. There are also inputs on the back, high and low-level inputs for recording from a radio, a record player, or any other source. We have now covered most of the controls on the machine. There's the tape speed here. This machine has 3 tape speeds, 7.5 inches per second, 3 3/4, and 1 7/8. Typically for Tandberg, the 7.5 the highest tape speed, 7.5 inches per second, has a great sound quality, virtually indistinguishable from the recording. The middle speed is okay for it's okay for music, definitely for speech. The lowest speed is not good at all. It's okay for speech, but the sound sounds really closed in. And that's typical for Tandberg. They really went for the higher quality on the higher tape speeds and totally ignored the lower tape speeds, which is a fair trade-off. It's very difficult to make a machine that will run, that'll have a very good sound quality on all three tape speeds. And finally, I should mention there's a tape counter here, which with a thumb wheel that is set to 0 eventually, and that's used for figuring out where on the tape you are. And here we finally have an on-off switch. Nothing special about that. I should also mention that the Model 6, and in this case the Model 64 since it's got 4 tracks, was actually a machine that was available in a couple of different versions. This is one of the earlier versions. Later versions had a greater assortment of inputs and outputs, and the final version of the Model 6 was called the 6X, which has Tandberg's cross-field biasing system, whereby there's a separate bias head in front of the recording head, which feeds the recording bias onto the tape when recording. And the big advantage to that is that you get a better frequency response than you would with a conventional biasing system, which meant that even at a speed of 3 3/4, the sound quality is very good. This version, it's okay, but you can still hear that the highs are missing. So there we have it, the Tandberg Model 6 stereo reel-to-reel tube-based tape recorder from 1960, I would say. Okay, thank you for watching and goodbye.